These past 24 hours has been very difficult to look at the American news and not think of the killing that we all just witnessed in Minnesota. I want to share my thoughts on this and just what's on my mind. There's so much to talk about, but I think they're important conversations to have. And it's tough in the current environment in USA to where if you flip on any channel, they just make you think like you have to join one side or the other, and we have to yell at each other as much as we possibly can. And then only if we can yell a little bit louder, then the other side will finally understand us. I always reject that kind of thinking. I don't like to think that we just have to join one tribe or the other, or that there's only two tribes. I think there's other ways to think about these kind of things. And I always try my best to build understanding with everyone and try to be respectful as much as I can. And I read through all of your comments every day, and I appreciate people's input. I feel the same that many of you feel, and I just want to say that you're not alone. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm crying, shaking. And the sad thing about the USA is we've kind of expected these kind of things because it's the ICE stuff is such a common occurrence now. This is not the first type of event like this happening. I read the news every day where, you'll read descriptions, the government, the ICE people, the Trump people will try to say, oh, the person tried to use their car as a weapon, and they'll try to claim that this person's a terrorist or whatever. It's frankly ridiculous. I'll be frank with you guys on that stuff. And when you actually saw the video, because I've read descriptions of this stuff, but this is the first one I really clearly seen. It's like you can clearly see that the Trump people are lying. I'll just be frank with you guys, and anyone who's honest about the stuff, you can see with your own eyes. I think, in my opinion, this hopefully will be and needs to be a turning point in the USA. I already see protests are in multiple cities in the USA, rightfully so. People should be upset. People should be raising awareness what's happening, and people should really open up dialogue about what's going on, which I try to do, and I want to talk about things in an honest and real way. I think the biggest issue we have right now in USA is this sense of lawlessness, and this can play multiple different angles to that. In terms of the whole ICE stuff, I was looking that the Trump people reduced the amount of time from training. I want to say it's something like it, maybe before it was weeks, now it's like days kind of thing. So just very little training. The people that they're getting may have various, failed drug tests or criminal backgrounds or any number of things, and you can, go into that issues. They run around our neighborhoods wearing masks, as you know. We see videos of this stuff where they don't identify themselves, and they're often instigators where the first thing that they reach for is their weapon in any situation, like they're escalating. Whereas anyone who's been trained, be it military, law enforcement, or any kind of proper training, you should always be thinking about perseverance of life and de-escalation, and thinking about how can we, do job in a professional way. In terms of Renee's family, and her name was Renee Good. I feel sorry about the whole situation. My understanding, she's a daughter, she's a mother, she's a wife, and there's a hole now in people's families that you can't replace. Maybe never replace. All these things are really difficult to talk about, but I think it's important to address this stuff. If you want to take a different point of view, and I want to address this fully as best I can, there'll be people in USA, they'll say, well, Chris, we have to have ICE because there's lawlessness with immigration, these kind of things. And I'm going to address this in an honest way. I think the difficulty about this stuff is the Trump people paint this whole situation as you only have to blame, say, black or brown people, right? And I'll give you an example, because if you create a system in USA to where I will only go after someone who's looking for work, someone who's paying taxes, someone who's part of the system, right? I'm talking about, say, undocumented workers, but then I don't really go after the people who are on the other side of the equation who are hiring said people. Then for me, that just feels, I mean, are we being honest about this conversation here? And I mean in all sincerity, because again, there's two sides of the equation there, right? And I can understand how people are saying, well, okay, so that's therefore we have to, enforce our laws. And I'm just talking in terms of conservative perspective. We have to force our laws, or we don't have a country. These kind of, you guys know the arguments that they make, and I understand that, and I'm having an honest conversation about you with that. I have first, when we talk about the ICE thing, I have no trouble and no problem, and as I've told you so many times, if we go through the due process, which I think I always stress that, rule of law, give people a right to defend themselves in court, give people a right to show their documents, whatever situations, because I've seen so many videos where ICE seems to ignore these things, right? And I remember we saw one recently. This was a U.S. citizen. I think it was also Minnesota, I believe. It was, I remember seeing the gentleman where like the ICE person just comes in and tackles them. It's because all winter now is, in the snow, so it's cold, and basically throws the person to the ground, and the person on the ground was like, can I show you my ID? Can I show you it's on my phone? And the ICE wouldn't give them opportunity. And then ICE goes and detains said person. There was a young kid, I think it might have been like 21 or something like that, just like someone young, and then detains them and ultimately just lets them go, right? Because I had no right to detain said person. And that I'm just giving just a couple events, like this stuff is just going on all the time, right? Or you'll hear about ICE just arresting people. For example, the people who are trying to do the right thing. Say there's an American marrying someone who is not an American citizen, right? And you'll hear stories of ICE people who are like in the office when someone's trying to do this properly and get their green card paper all sorted out. And these kind of things, if like you just have honest conversation about this, like what is going on? Like people are trying to do the right thing here, right? From the and I want to address the other point of view is like I and this hits, it's hard for me to talk about because it's like it hits me directly. If you don't know, I was born in Vietnam. I'm a naturalized citizen in the USA, so that means like Trump has already been talking about taking away people's citizenships who are naturalized, these kind of things. So someone like myself, my wife, she's a Korean national, and people always ask, Chris, why didn't you come back to the USA? I mean, like for us, it's really unsafe. My wife's not American, and I'm a naturalized citizen, so we would easily be targeted by ICE. And I make videos on YouTube talking about all of this stuff. So I truly know, guys. It's like, how do we address these things? And I want to go back to the working situation in USA, because I want to address all this stuff in an honest way, as best I can. And I also understand, and because guys, I talked to you about this before. I grew up in Oregon. I actually picked berries in the fields, be it blueberries, strawberries, etc. And this was starting when I was about age, I had to think about this. This would be about, I would have been about 6th grade. So it would have been about 12. And a lot of the workers in the field also, or not also, but were immigrants from south of the border, right? And I'm just saying, I know how it is. I know what it means to work in the fields. Like I know. I used to live in LA, and many of the house cleaners, gardeners, these things, and it's not just LA, it's all over, are let's say black and brown. I don't know their immigration status or not. Some could be legal, some could be not legal or undocumented, however you want to say it. It is so integrated into U.S. society. So restaurants that you go to, hotels that you go to. So first and foremost for me, just talking about this issue, I don't look down on other people because why would I? They're human beings. That's the first thing I want to say about this. They're human beings that are a deep fabric of society, and everyone's in on it. That's the best way to say it. Everyone is in on it. Every restaurant you go to, hotel, the food that you eat, the houses that you live on, you're all part of it. And if you don't acknowledge that these workers are part of USA, part of the overall whole, you're deluding yourself. So I want to say that first. I also want to mention the construction thing, because I completely understand if someone's like, "Hey, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm a U.S. citizen, and there's other people that are working for less wages." Completely understand. That's why I'm addressing with you. I completely understand. And I think when employers are saying, you know what, I'm going to try to hire the cheapest possible and hire people illegally. That's why I mentioned the employer situation, to where if we're going to be honest about cleaning up the system, which I think we all should be, then we should look at both an employer and an employee and treat all of this with due process and have equally enforcement on this stuff, right? And I think, again, the Trump people just want to escalate things as much as they can. The Trump people try to use these situations as a way to divide people, basically to start shooting. And then while people just are fighting about that situation, then there's massive corruption at the top with the Trump people. It's all connected, guys. It's all connected, because the system that we have in place right now in USA is also lawlessness, to where I use the example of Elon Musk because we cover it all the time on the channel. You have basically companies out there that will put out products or do any number of things to cheat consumers, to put it in the most basic terms, right? And you have lawlessness in that part of the environment. And I guess this culture in USA, to where people feel like, well, this person cheats the system, therefore I cheat the system. That's how we, advance in U.S. society. It's like a collection of lawlessness that bleeds down to what we saw with, say, the killing, right? But it's throughout society, and I've said this several times on the channel, because I want you guys to think about the big picture. Why do we cover the economics? Why do we cover the finance news, the business news, these kind of things? Because it really matters. Like right now, and people rightfully so should be extremely upset about what we've all witnessed again, the killing, right? But you have to put this all in context, to where, why aren't people like equally like real upset? And I know there are people upset, right? I know there are, which you should be, about why is medical care in USA costs so much money, where I can't keep my family members alive because it costs too much, right? Or I can't even put food on the table. I can't eat a healthy diet because it costs too much, to be frank. Because the way the U.S. system works, it's profits over people. And so your daily diet, your daily intake, it also is represented in the news as well, is designed to keep you on edge. So for example, if you eat just sugar-filled food nonstop in USA. So for example, I grew up in USA, so I know exactly how it is. People go to, like 7-Eleven or whatever, and just for example, and you'll get like, when I was a kid, it was like 32 ounces of the big Coke, and maybe now it's 64 ounce or whatever. And this is the kind of stuff that people are, drinking. And if you look at the ice people, I'll just say, a very high chance a lot of these people are way out of shape, eat an unhealthy diet, and it puts you in that kind of, let's say, bad state, both physically and mentally. And this also relates to the economic environment, to where like you create the situation to where the only jobs in USA are, go ICE enforcement, and you get signing bonuses and these kind of things to basically go attack your neighbors and disrupt communities, or join the military and join what Trump wants you to do is go kidnap, foreign leaders, or go after tankers and just get oil for dear old Trump. That's sort of the society that we're in. And it's like, I tell you all the time, it's like the Hunger Games nonstop. And I know that the coming dialogue in the next week is going to be going over every detail of the video that we all witnessed, right, of the killing. And people are going to say, what's your feeling on this? And then just focus on that one individual case. But I think if you, which I understand, which you should, and I'm sure there's going to be trial and investigation and things. I'll just give you my general opinion on this thing. There were 3 shots fired. The driver, the woman who's killed, Renee Good, was clearly turning to the right. So I think it'll be a tough case to defend, and I'll let the legal experts go on that. But you can see it for yourself. But I want to talk about that and move beyond that, because there needs to be real change in the USA to improve things for all of us. I mentioned this before. I say it so many times. There's a movie. It's Korean history. It's very similar to what's going on right now in USA. It's called 1987, When the Day Comes. And for those of you who've been following me, telling why I talk about it all the time. It's a real event. You can read the Korean history as well. You can see the movie. You can do both. But let me tell you the scenario. And unfortunately, we're right here, right now in USA, is where the story starts out. There's a killing of a protester, basically, same kind of scenario. And the government comes out and just gives a ridiculous, version of events of what happened. And then you had different bodies, and against Korean history, like say the press, how are you going to cover it when you have government crackdowns? Or regular people, which is where the powerful stories, multiple stories in the movies of where who's going to sign on to the cover-up, right? Which people will speak out, which people won't. And then regular people who maybe don't pay attention to stuff at all. They know there's some, stuff going on, some crazy stuff going on in the country, but they just want to live their lives, worry about, getting a job, but can I get a boyfriend? Can I get a girlfriend, right? But ultimately, you'll realize how this will affect your family directly and your country as a whole, and you can't look away anymore, which they also address in the movie. It's like I said, it's a fantastic movie. I just always mention it because the events that ended up happening in America was like right now is just very similar to what happened in Korea, and essentially there were mass protests. And the first thing my wife said, I asked her about this thing we're talking about today. She's like, what people need to do is hold up pictures of all the people that have been killed in USA, which I'm sure you guys know. It's and you're getting all sorts of deep problems in the USA. And remind everyone, these are real people that we're talking about here. These are real people on the ground, and these are your neighbors. And I think for me the video that really affected me. I mean, there's a lot of videos, but we just watched it where they were denying, the doctor to go take a look at what happened to Renee, and one person screaming like, "You're killing my neighbor! You're taking my neighbors!" Right? Just yelling, and I just want to put that just at the fundamental of to where, how do we, why do you choose to live in this environment where we treat people like this? And it goes back to, we need to think about changing the whole system. Also, I know that there's going to be a lot of really angry people, and I completely understand. If I was in this situation, if I witnessed what we all witnessed, and I'm there in person, trust me, guys, I'd be livid. I'd be throwing as many things, yelling as many things as I have a I'll just say this: I have a real temper. As I told you before, my wife, I've worked on it for several years to get to the point where I'm at. Because people always say, "Chris, you're so calm," but I haven't always been like this. When I lose it, I just completely lose control, and it's I'll just say this: emotion can get the best of any of us. It can get the best of any of us, and you may do things that you regret. And I think, even for example, say I can't speak to what's in the person who killed Renee. I can't speak to what's in that person's heart. I just have no idea. But just shooting someone 3 times is terrible, right? And we'll eventually hear what's going on with their training and all that stuff and whatever. But we need to figure out a way to where we can have cooler heads prevail. I guess the best way to say it. And that's why I always mention if we want a better environment, better world, rule of law, due process, actually listen to each other and talk about the stuff in honest ways. That's my thoughts on this stuff. Sorry, I don't know if I addressed everything that people ask or people want to say, but that's what's on my mind. And also, I do YouTube all the time, and if you don't know, when I get really pissed off about things or really upset about stuff, I just make videos. That's how I deal with it. I talk with you guys about these things. Sometimes you're like, because sometimes people say, Chris, is that person an AI or something like that? No, I'm a real person. I'm right here. In fact, I can't sleep a lot of the times, and I'm in Korea, so time hour difference, but you may or not know, I'll make videos at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I get up about 4 a.m. every day, and I just literally, I work 24/7. You don't know, because if I'm not, I'm actually in bed talking to myself, thinking of all these things I want to say and keep my wife awake. The reason why I mention that is if you ever wonder sort of like how I do this stuff every day with you, it's because I just try my best to build understanding and give voice to people in our community. That's why I read through your comments all the time. Recently, just for example, there was someone who said they were a minister in Colorado, and they were saying they were trying their best to help people in Colorado, but they feel like that they can't do enough, and they worry that the situation will come to Colorado. Or I read someone in our community from Kansas City, and they were saying, I'm ready to drive up to Minnesota and start protesting with the people. I understand entirely, and I'm right there with you. I want to say this. You're going to hear things on Fox News and otherwise and say, oh, these are all, professionals, and they just want to agitate, or that's the word that they use or whatever. One of the things that we need to do better in USA, if you want to fight the good fight, is change the way that we frame these discussions. And the example that I used, and I was just thinking about recently, I remember when, I don't remember which company it was. They were trying to build that pipeline through Native American land. If you guys remember this was maybe 4 years ago or something like that. And I remember there was a lot of military veterans that were going there. I think it might have been like South Dakota and in that region, and defending the Native American land. I think the oil pipe was going through the tribal land and maybe burial ground or something like that. And the oil company promised, it's not going to spill. We're going to do everything great. And then it was like 2 years later it spilled, which always does. And those are the kind of situations for like, man, just be honest about what the stuff is. You're just in it for the profits, right? And you could give a care in the world about the people there. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, you'll know exactly what the kind of thing I'm saying and why I'm bringing this up. First is that if we frame our discussions as, hey, yes, people are going to go up to Minnesota to defend their neighbors. People, yes, are going to go up to Minnesota and defend the Constitution. That's the noble thing to do. That's the just thing to do. Is to help people who are in need, to stand up for things that really matter, right? I mean, I'm standing up for the Constitution. I hope you are as well. Hope you are standing up for people's rights, right? And that's why I mentioned, even if someone say on the other side of the aisle said, but Chris, this is all about, undocumented illegal workers or whatever. Sure. I even address that fully, right? Give someone a chance for due process. Same thing with the employer, right? Have honest conversation about that. If we're talking about the jobs that need to be filled, maybe Americans aren't doing the jobs. Are Americans willing to do said jobs? Why do we create an environment to where and also be honest about this, where employers are just like profits over people, and I'm going to replace as many people as they can with robots? Because the way that they frame the argument, the Trump will say, oh, well, all the problems is the black and brown people who take your jobs or whatever, right? But like, be honest about this stuff. A lot of it's automation. Some jobs just don't exist anymore. We have robots for that, right? Now, is that a right thing or wrong thing? That's what it is. It's automation, okay? Other thing is, yeah, there are some jobs that are overseas, but people in other country didn't really, quote, take your job. The American company or whatever company moved that job. So why don't you ever talk about the company or the CEO who made that decision, right? And then that's also based on profits over people. It's to push up the margins as much as we can. Or in situation, if we don't have Americans that want to do said jobs, because we have several people in the community, because I read through all your comments, I ask you guys questions and go through it. It's like, I've seen several people say that they've been in construction for many years and Americans don't want to do these type of jobs. There's some jobs Americans don't want to do. And be honest about these kind of things, right? And also in an honest way, when Trump tries to say, hey, this is all about drugs and stuff like that, and we want to protect the community, and people get passionate about that, which I completely understand. Someone recently wrote in the community that their mother, they're going to, like, already thinking about ways to leave the country. They want to go to Bali. I'm going to leave soon. I was hearing about that, and she said that I think it was her son died of fentanyl, which I'm very sorry to hear about that. And I think it was her daughter to join the military, and really concerned about the daughter's safety, because you're part of Trump's military essentially, or, well, the United States military, but Trump orders crazy stuff. Point being is, if you really want leadership that works in the USA, you want leadership that listens to voters, listens to constituents, is willing to have discussions on this stuff and frame arguments, meaning that the discussions of these have change the way that we discuss things, and put it in a way of like, hey, we're trying to work for solutions here. Much of what you'll see on TV this coming week, trust me, I already know because I've already seen it, is there's going to be scripts handed out to people if you're affiliated with one particular party or affiliated with the other particular party, and you're going to fall into whatever said scripts, and they'll be giving whatever talking points. And this is why you'll end up seeing many videos out there on YouTube or stuff you'll see on TV. It's going to be all same. Very few people will talk in honest and open ways and have a real dialogue. So I know I said a lot in this stuff in this video. I just wanted to say things that are on my mind about this. And I do appreciate your time, everyone, and just know that you're not alone. And there are other people out there who want a better world. And I'll leave it at that. So thank you for watching.